Hi everybody. Today we are here. We're on Tuesday of the week starting on June the 29th. So for tomorrow, right, which is Wednesday 1 p.m. on Wednesday, you will be submitting the project deliverables. There is a new thread in the in our discussion board just for final project deliverables, so please submit it there. Again, there is no final survey and exam. This has been waived. Let me address the questions that came up. First, let me say this from a business perspective. So let's say you were doing this in a business context. The requirements of the project have been shared with you many weeks ago, and yet there have been no questions other than these two right at the end of the period to do the project. So this it would not look very good in a business context. Of course, I'm here to answer questions, but it would not look good in a business context at all. Waiting so long to ask questions. So there are two questions here. Do we need to reach $1 billion for all 10 years combined or only for the 10th year? So what the syllabus says is that the organization is expected to have revenues of $1 billion by the 10th year of its existence. And later, in a video, I did mention that it was on that year. It was yearly revenues. But normally, when you say that a company has revenues, normally you mean yearly or annual revenues. If you were referring to revenues in a particular quarter, then you would say quarterly revenues or revenues in the first, second, third, fourth quarter. But if you say just revenues, usually you mean annual or yearly revenues. The second question is, what format should the final video be? For example, should it be a Shark Tank pitch or one of our progress videos? Let's see what the syllabus says. I think the syllabus states very clearly what this is the case. So under deliverables, we have the report description and we have the video clip, and it says the video clip should be no more than 10 minutes in duration, should be made available on YouTube, and it should summarize the project in such a way that it could be used in attempts to obtain venture capital to support a new business idea. So it's more like a Shark Tank type of presentation. However, remember in one of the previous videos I said that in this video, at least in this video, you should have a demonstration of your system. Again, what you're doing here is you are proposing a company that would compete with Uber Freight. Another competitor would be C.H. Robinson, because that's a competitor of Uber Freight. So this company is assetless. It does not have truckers as employees. It does not have trucks. It would essentially be like Uber Freight. But what I mentioned in previous videos is that for a company like this to be competitive, to be a company that will succeed competing against Uber Freight and C.H. Robinson and other companies, the company would have to have some differentiating factor. Going back to, so the two questions have been answered. Now going back to the presentations that have been made so far, they give me the impression that neither of the teams is really doing what I asked, which was to propose a company that will compete with Uber Freight. So it's essentially a technology company that will not have assets, that will not have drivers, truck drivers as employees, that will just intermediate, do essentially what Uber Freight does, but in a more specialized way in the beginning so that it could gain competition. So in one of the teams, it was mentioned that as an item, as a cost item, salaries of truck drivers. Well, that's not the type of company I asked you to create, because you would not have truck drivers as employees. You would allow independent truck drivers or trucking companies to bid for projects for shipments that will be contacted by shippers. The other team mentioned as competitors oil and gas extractors, right? Oil and gas producing companies like Chevron. That is not a competitor to your company. Chevron has a division, a trucking division, a logistics division. Chevron, for example, maybe the others have as well, where they have trucks. So that division could be your main customers in that they might use your company, to transport natural gas. That was the focus of that team, to offload or to meet some transportation needs that they cannot meet internally with their own division, a logistics division. So those companies that were listed as competitors, they are not competitors. They are potential customers. Now, I did mention that around this time, if you were to start a company to transport natural gas, you'd probably not have a lot of business, because natural gas is so cheap right now that companies, there are pipelines that transport natural gas as well. So probably companies, in what does happen today in the Permian Basin is that there is a lot of flaring. So natural gas that is produced is just burned on site so that it doesn't have to be transported, because transportation costs are probably too high for the cost, for the value that the companies would get by selling natural gas in addition to what they already have. Now, pipelines are more cost effective than trucks. One thing I need to mention to you is that this course is the type of course that is usually used in audits, because it's the capstone course. So we are audited on a regular basis by a number of auditing organizations, and we are as a school of business as well as a university. And if they want to audit a program like the MSIS program, they will actually target the capstone course. And auditors typically, they are unlike the students. They are different from the students, or the opposite of the students, in that they don't want to see a lot of high grades. So students want high grades, right? Auditors, they don't want to see high grades. They don't want to see everybody getting A's, because that to them is an indication that the school or the university has no standards. So I cannot, even if I wanted to, and some faculty do that and get away with it, so to speak, but I cannot give grades, just A's for everybody, particularly if you don't do what I am saying in the syllabus and the videos that I'm asking you to do. Because auditors, if they wanted to audit my course, they would ask for all of the materials, including the videos, They would review them and then would review the student projects as well as the individual assignments that were provided by the students on the course website. And if students did outrageously wrong things, the auditors would question a good grade given to a team or to individual students. So please take the comments that I'm making now to produce very good reports. You can still address issues in the reports. Also, be careful and make sure that you get these reports reviewed by other members and maybe, if possible, others outside the team to avoid just awful mistakes. For example, revenues, it's almost impossible for them to be negative. So don't go listing negative revenues in your project, not even in the first years. Profits can be negative, but not revenues. For the revenues to be negative, it's very rare. It's some very special, odd circumstances that could lead to negative revenues. But by and large, it's not something you will see anywhere. Now, profits can and often will be in new companies negative in the first few years, not revenues. Okay, so don't make this type of mistake, because this is the type of mistake that if auditors see in a report, they will tell me you should have given this team an F, and maybe these students should not have been admitted into the program in the first place. Because this is very, very basic, right? And students in this program, they typically have a bachelor's in business, or they have to have taken some remedial courses. So you are supposed to know this type of thing, right? This is just too basic for you not to know. Also, avoid these mistakes that I mentioned. You know, if you have a company that is competing with Uber Freight, it's a technology company, you cannot be competing with a company like Chevron. Okay, Chevron's logistics division does not transport natural gas and oil for other companies. That's at least as far as I know, it doesn't. Okay, don't confuse companies that are more focused on refining or transportation, like a Valero, with a company that is more focused on extraction of oil and gas, like a Chevron. And this, if you want to discuss these companies in your report. In other words, you have to know what you're talking about. It's better not to say something than to say something that is patently wrong. Also, you will receive your individual grades. Of course, I don't discuss individual grades in public or with anybody other than the students. But you may find out that your grades are different from the team grades, and that's quite often the case. Okay, so a student may get a grade that is, let's say I consider a team to have done work that would be worth a B. I may give the team leader an A, because I like to reward team leaders for the extra work. But an individual member may receive a C because of individual assignments or because of the scoring of the individual's contribution. But keep in mind that I will try my best to give the highest grade possible for each student. So if I make a mistake in grading, I hope to make that mistake to the benefit of the students. So I will If I err on the student's side. Keep this in mind, because if you're not happy with your grade and you ask me later to review and revise your grade, careful with what you wish for, because I will review and revise your grade, but very likely it will be revised downward, because I am already giving the highest grade possible. So unless I made a major mistake, your grade, if you ask me to review and revise your grade, I will do it, and it will go down. Another thing is that I mentioned in videos and in the syllabus and in the report template to leaders: be honest in the scoring of the individual members of the team, and I even say that explicitly. If everybody gets the same score, the whole team will suffer because of dishonesty. But I had in the past team leaders that were they thought they were smart by doing this, and they wanted to be nice to the other team members, so they scored themselves lower than the other team members. And in those cases, I gave those team leaders a lower grade than the team grade. So the other team members got higher grades than the team leaders. So in those cases, the team leaders came, with no exception, they came to me and said, "Oh no, I did more work than the other team members, but I figured that if I scored myself lower, you would feel pity of me and give me a good score as well." And I said no, because if you're scoring yourself and you're being honest, you deserve a lower grade as a team leader. In fact, it's a bit irresponsible for a team leader to do less work than the other team members. That's probably negligent as a team leader. And the other alternative, the other possibility is that the team leader was dishonest, in which case the team leader deserves a lower grade than the team. This underscores one important thing, which is that many people don't want to be leaders. They want to be followers because they want everybody to like them. And that's not what a good leader does. A good leader is honest. So many people who are employees in companies, they want to progress. They want to be they want to progress in the organizational ladder. They want to get promotions. They want to start managing people, but they don't want to be honest with anybody. They want everybody to like them, and that is a characteristic that will lead to failure. So learn from this experience that you're having in this course. If you are honest and you do that in business, you will do well. If you're dishonest and you try to make everybody happy, including team members that did not do as much work as others, then you will not do well as a manager in the future. One final comment I wanted to make is that the impression I got from the teams is that they tried hard, but they did not follow my request or my advice or request they did not meet one key requirement of this course, which was to put themselves as in the shoes of owners of the company. I'm not saying that people did not work hard. You may have worked harder in this course than in other courses in the program. I don't doubt that, but the impression I got was that you did not put yourselves, no team put themselves in the shoes of owners. They tried to give me the impression they were doing that, but they did not do that. And it's just over a period of multiple weeks. If you were starting a business, you would have come up with more questions. You would have, in the presentations, you would have done a better job. you would have not made some mistakes if you were putting yourselves in the shoes of owners, because the way you've done the project so far, it would not have led to successful organizations that would compete with Uber Freight. This takes me to an interesting remark. So let's say in the future you decide that you want to learn a lot about the banking industry. You could learn a lot about the banking industry by finding a master's degree in banking and taking that degree. But if you start a bank, you will learn more about the banking industry than even if you have a master's degree in banking. And you may not spend that much money. You just go ahead and you start a bank. And you go through the steps of starting a bank. You set your mind to start a bank. It will probably take you a couple of years, which is what it would take for you to get a master's degree part-time, right? But you will learn so much about how to start a bank, how to run a bank, that you will know more by the end of that period. And let's say you don't start a bank. And by the way, for a master's degree, you may pay, say, $10,000. To start a bank individually, you may end up spending $10,000. So it's going to be about the same cost. But let's say that by the end of that period, you don't start a bank. What will happen is that you will have interacted with people in the banking industry. There would be no other way. Or potential customers, and they would want to hire you because of the knowledge that you demonstrated. So this course, I have a feeling for the teams was a missed opportunity. I didn't try to get you to start businesses for real, or at least do as much as possible in a real scenario, because I wanted to make your life difficult in this course. There is no advantage for me. I don't benefit one way or another. If you don't learn anything in this course, it will be a disappointment for me, but I will not be fired because of that. It's more like the other way around. If I try to push you too hard, then everybody's going to complain to the president of the university, and then I may be reprimanded or something like that. But it's actually taking the easy path. For me, is actually the most practical thing to do. So what I'm doing is for your own benefit, not mine. And I think you missed the opportunity. That's not to say that all grades will be low. I will try to give you the best grades possible based on your work, based on your effort. But I think this was a missing opportunity for you, because if you had followed the requirements of the course, you would have learned a ton in this 5-week period. But it would have taken more of your time, even more time than you dedicated for this course. So this concludes this video. You will get your individual grades by the deadline, because I use the UConnect system for that, and the UConnect system does not release the grades up until the deadline for that occurs. So you'll be getting your grades by the deadline. You can see from my comments, you can guess more or less what the reasons are for your grades when you get them. The only scenario in which I would recommend to you to question your grade is if you get an F, because then you have nothing to lose. I cannot give you less than an F, so the worst thing that can happen is that you keep the F. But other than that, I would not question your grade, because I will review and revise your grade, and very likely I will revise it downwards. And you should know that by now that the final decider of your grades is the professor. Once a professor decides to give you a grade, it's nearly impossible to change that grade. No one wants to change a grade given by a professor because accreditation agencies or auditors, they do not like to see that. Auditors tend to want to remove accreditation from universities and schools that allow anybody other than the professor to define a student's grade, and they don't want to see professors being pushed to change a grade by others of a student. I know this because I have a lot of experience with this because I am the division chair, and I've seen students trying to change a grade that faculty in our division gave them, and there was, I can tell you, it's no way that can be done by the students by force. So anyways, this concludes this video, and thank you for watching.